Uh, Recently, I met a friend of mine after a long time, and one thing which they were very curious about is what's the difference between an astrologer and a psychic? And I think this is a fantastic question which many people don't really ask. um, it appears that both are in the business of telling future, but the technique might be completely different. So I'll tell you my perspective on it. Obviously, you might have a very different take on it, and it's okay. That's what life is all about. We all have different experiences with these things. So, and before I move ahead, I have fantastic friends who are incredible psychic tarot readers. They really know their craft, right? In terms of the difference between tarot or a psychic or an astrologer is quite profound, right? A psychic or a tarot is using their own intuition to answer your question. So when you pick a card or when you ask them a question, they are using their innate sense of intuition, right? And if they have a very powerful intuition, if they are connected to some sort of a higher um, mode of power, then they might be able to answer that question very clearly. An astrologer, on the other hand, is also using its intuition, but they are using their intuition to interpret the data, right? So an astrologer like me, we see a birth chart, we see a pattern of that's planets that's playing on, and then we are guided by that pattern and some of the formulas of Vedic astrology to give you that prediction or to give you that clarity of what might happen. So if I would have to quantify it, I would say an astrologer is 50% or 60% data and 30 and 40%, maybe 50% intuition, right? Their intuition part is not so prominent sometime in doing their work. But for a psychic, it's completely intuition, right? And one of the things which I think, which I've been taught that could change the dynamics completely, is that if a psychic is not keeping their intuition um, strong, there are certain ways they have to do in terms of meditation, in terms of the process to strengthen that intuition. It's very difficult. They might not be able to connect with your energy completely, right? So when a psychic pulls a card, are they using your energy to guide them, or are they using their energy? There is, when you deal with these things, there is a possibility that it might um, be slightly not aligned at that time, right? So that's why when you ask a psychic question three times, they might give you three different answers, right? Or they might not give you a clear answer. But most astrologer, if they are really trained well, there is a small variation in the answer, depending on the transits, on depending on various things. So if your questions are major, right, if they are significant decisions in your life, I would say that needs data, right? When we were working in bank, we are always told to trust the data and not the instincts. And that's what I also do in astrology. I always go by the data. So my own instinct sometimes could not might not be giving me a clear answer, but the chart never lies. A chart will have a very clear answer. So I hope you find this topic interesting, and I have made some uh, contribution to this information. If you still have more questions, I would love to hear your questions. So please use the comment sections and send us your questions. It might give others a different perspective as well. Thank you very much.